On this episode of The Auto Archaeologist, we're looking at a real, true, legitimate, just discovered 1969 Yenko Camaro. Watch this video, you're not going to want to miss it. Alright, go ahead.
Howdy, muscle car fans.
Howdy? You start with howdy? Hey, we're here in a garage in Illinois looking at a 1969 Camaro, which is a very, very unique Camaro, and I'll go into more detail about that. But I'm here with Stefano Bimbi of Nicky Performance. He's an expert in this field, and he came out to go over the car and verify. We had some inklings of what was going on, but he's the guy that verified and blew away all the information that we knew. So, Mr. Bimbi, tell us, what's up?
So, Ryan, Mr. Automotive Archaeologist, thank you for inviting me in on this special situation here. This family has owned this vehicle for, approximately 40 years? And
Yeah.
it was purchased the way you see it today, with the paint job that it has 40 years ago, with the big block engine, with the tunnel ram, and all the day two high performance options. And it's been that way ever since. It was kind of a family treasure. Unfortunately, the husband has passed away, and so the family wanted to know exactly what they had, and Ryan said, I got a guy. So we came out tonight to take a look at it. Ryan did send me some pictures of the car, which kind of confused me a little bit. I'm going to go over it. You know, those of you that know Camaros see a short spoiler on the car. We see some Yenko emblems in their non-traditional placement. It's got murals on the side of it. It's got Krager style SST wheels, which were really popular in the late 70s and the 80s. More Yenko emblems on the side. Kind of neat and unique to it. It has a 140 mile an hour speedometer and a high redline tachometer. Has a 4-speed shifter coming.
Oh, hold on a second, because it won't hear you from in there. All right. What about the 4-speed?
It's a 4-speed car, 4-speed shifter. I was under this car and already determined that it has an original cutout for the 4-speed. The interior appears to be all original door panels, seats. Nothing's ever been replaced from what I can see there. Dash pad's original. Really neat car. The VIN number is here through the windshield, and the VIN on a Camaro tells us a few things. It tells us that it was a Camaro coupe as opposed to a convertible. It tells us that the car was built in Norwood, Ohio, as opposed to Van Nuys, California. And it tells us that it was an 8-cylinder as opposed to a 6-cylinder, but it doesn't tell us which 8-cylinder the car came with. So we were trying to discern exactly what this vehicle came with. So the VIN number up here through the window, I checked the rosette rivets on the back side. They have not been tampered with. That VIN has never been off this car. There is a secondary VIN underneath the cowl panel, which I could not see with the cowl panel on because of the paint was flaking underneath. So we did remove the cowl panel, and the hidden secondary VIN does match that VIN.
I'll post a picture of that in the video, so that way you'll see it.
There's also another hidden VIN, which is under the heater box, but we did not take that apart. I feel very confident after inspecting this car and knowing that it's been in this guise for 40 plus years that it just has not been messed with. We see the style trim grouping, the spears on the corners, the trim around the wheel wells.
Sorry, my bad.
The trim, foam trim here.
I have big feet, I'm sorry.
Again, some very interesting Yenko emblems there. The engine is coded as an L78 high horse solid lifter engine out of a Chevelle. So it's not the original engine.
I'll post that number also when it's in the video.
The transmission is a Muncie transmission. It is either an M20 or an M21, and based on my research, it's probably the 21, but I could not see the codes on the transmission. We did inspect the rear end axle and it has an axle tube that is coded BE and is dated May 20th of 1969 is the BE build date for that rear end. And so BEs only came in 2 vehicles. They came in Canonsburg Yenko Camaros and COPO Camaros. So that's a big clue on this particular car. We did look up the VIN, and it is not. We went to the Supercar website, the Supercar registry, where they maintain the VIN numbers for the Canonsburg Yenko built cars as well as other COPO supercars, and we actually did find the VIN number in the registry, but with no information. So there was no information on the engine, on the car per se, other than it was a COPO car, so it was actually in the registry. The trim tag over here on the firewall gives us a lot of information. So that trim tag gives us the build date, which was 05E, which is the last week of May, when the vehicle was actually built. It gives us the body sequence number, which is actually the order number. And ironically, it gives us the trim codes of the car. So this is an X11 D80 car, which means style trim grouping in either a small block or a COPO or a Yenko with spoilers. Now, based on the time that this car was built, it should not have a short spoiler. It should have the full length spoiler. The short spoiler was used, it was a carryover from 1968 and was used, I believe, through probably March, but not May. So kind of I wonder why that spoiler's on there. We did test.
But I was going to say, the car has been highly modified with paint and all that, so it could have just been swapped out or damaged. Or
yeah, for some reason it probably got swapped out. It probably did not come with that spoiler.
Yep.
We did test the springs in the trunk, so when you open the trunk of a spoiler car with a spoiler on it, because the spoiler's heavy, it usually springs up, and then when you lift it, the deck lid stays up as opposed to flopping over on you, and it did pass the spring test. It does have the proper springs for a spoiler car.
Mm-hmm.
Other things that we can see, disc brakes, which based on what I saw, they've been here for 40 years. It has a big block heater box. The small block cars did not have. They had the hoses were closer to the head of the engine. The big block precipitated having to move those heater hose lines over so there was room. So that's a big block heater box.
What about the RS front end?
Yeah, it has an RS front end, and they did make COPO RS cars.
Well, there we go. Now, just my gimbal gets a little weird sometimes. We're good.
And but what we found is that the RS front end does not appear to be original to the car because it is missing some of the significant components to make the headlights work. And the family told me that the owner actually opened and closed the headlights manually. Also, the hood of the car, which for a COPO or a Yenko car would be typically a cowl induction. They always had cowl induction hoods. This is not a cowl induction hood. It's been cut and modified for the
tunnel ramp.
Thank you. It is a tunnel ramp.
Yep.
And so it's not the original hood, but also throughout the whole car, I can see original paint underneath and where it's chipping, and the trim tag tells us that the car was yellow on top, yellow on the bottom. Again, the X11 D80 style trim with spoilers. So I see yellow everywhere underneath the paint except for the hood. So the hood was definitely not original to the car, and it would have had a cowl induction hood. So what we have here after inspecting the car, and I can say with a relative degree of accuracy because I have been following these cars for a long, long time and keeping track of them, is that what I do know for a fact is that the identical car to this exists. It's the prior body number. So it was to this car. So it was ordered at the same time on the scheme of ordering these. It was set up the same exact way as all the cars from that dealer were ordered. That car does exist, and as do a bunch of other cars that are all around this body number. And so I can say that this car is one of the cars sold out of Jack Douglas Chevrolet in Hinsdale, Illinois, that were sold to the public and badged as Yenko Camaros. Now, there's still to this day a lot of controversy about what actually happened, but the fact is it's part of Yenko history. It did happen. So this is a double COPO. It's a 9561 iron block COPO, and it's a 9737 sports car conversion package COPO, which was designed by Yenko to use on his cars. Very, very unique car. So this would have come from the factory without the Rally Sport front end, and it would have had an Enduro bumper as all the Jack Douglas cars have had. Obviously, the stripes, when it was repainted, have been removed, but the emblems still exist to this day, as do all the other telltale signs, the BE rear end, the 140-mile-an-hour speedometer, and the high red line tachometer.
We never went over what color combo the car was.
So this car was originally, it's code 7676, which means the top of the car was yellow and the bottom of the car was yellow, so no vinyl top. And then it was a 711 trim code number, which is standard black interior.
Okay.
And then, of course, we talked about the X11 style trim and the D80. So,
but what's unique about the Jack Douglas Yenkos beyond... Yeah, so it wasn't built at Yenko and Pennsylvania, but it's... What is the whole history there?
So a real quick synopsis on the deal. Jack Douglas was the Yenko dealer for Chicagoland and the Midwest. And to get that contract, which he did through a gentleman named Jim Spencer, who was the Yenko representative, his headquarters were at the Marina Towers in Chicago. And Jack is an associate of mine. He's since passed, but he filled me in on all these details many, many years ago. So Jack became a Yenko dealer. To do so, he had to buy a truckload of Yenko cars. He bought more than a truckload, and those cars were ordered by Yenko Chevrolet in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. And then they were dropped off to Yenko Chevrolet. They were badged and striped at the dealership. And then they were either sold by Yenko Chevrolet or they went to the network of dealers, which Jack Douglas was a network dealer. So Jack, we have this through historical archives and information, received one of the first truckloads of these new Yenko cars. Mm-hmm. And Jack, having worked for his dad, who owned the dealership prior, as the central office production order expert, where he would COPO order special vehicles like taxis or trucks for the municipalities. When he and the guys went through the car, they found a dealer shipper, which actually showed the COPO numbers. Now, those COPO order numbers were never publicized to anyone, and nobody was supposed to know anything about them. So Jack saw those numbers, and right away he knew if he had those numbers, he could probably order the car. He told me that it was under his assumption that Yenko was putting the engines in the cars. Nobody at that point really knew that the factory was building the 427 COPOs. They didn't call them COPOs back then. So Jack found this out. He called up, as he told me the story, called up his zone office, said, here, I've got these two numbers. Can I order these cars? The zone says, we have no record of those numbers. We don't know what they mean, what they pertain to. So Jack's father was an engineer for General Motors, and when he retired, he bought the dealership in Hinsdale. In his retirement years, that's what he ran that dealership. So they had some connections. So he called General Motors Corporate Direct, got a hold of Vince Emmy, gave him those numbers, and Vince says, well, if you've got those numbers, sure, you can order those cars from us. So Jack says, well, great. I'm going to put an order in for these cars, and their way I don't have to pay this premium to Don Yenko for his cars, because Don was obviously making money. He was, charging a premium for his badged up cars and making a profit on them. Good old capitalist society. So Jack put the order in. Well, somebody at headquarters, and he put an order in for 24 cars. People always want to know how Jack could remember how many cars he ordered. Well, it was simple. Yenko had 6 colors available, the Canonsburg cars. There was Fathom Green, Rally Green, Le Mans Blue, Hugger Orange, Daytona Yellow, and...
the bright green.
I said that one.
You did
Gold.
Gold, yeah.
Yep, so that's 6 colors. So today we call that a 6-pack. Those were the only colors available to buy a Canonsburg Yenko. Well, Jack said, all right, I'm going to order these cars direct. I'm just going to order 4 of each color through my dealership, and I'll have those available to sell to the public. So 6 times 4 is 24. He ordered 24 cars. Now there's talk about a 25th car because his general manager, Jack Dumas, who I also spoke to before he passed, and Jack always drove a black car. And so when they found out they could order these cars on their own, Jack told me that he did order a black 427 double COPO car per the Yenko blueprint that he used as a demo. And there's been rumors of one floating around Chicago. We've never found that car, but we hear about it. You know, and the guy who ordered it says that he ordered it. So I believe him. We just haven't found that car yet. So it could be a total of 25 cars. Anyway, once Jack put his order in, and back then you had to manually input the order. It took a lot of time. But once the zone office got it and the zone office sent the order.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. They're triggering the light. Sent
the order of these cars to General Motors. Somebody called Don Yenko and said, hey, and it may have been Vince, I mean, we don't know. And said, hey, somebody figured out how to order these cars, and they're ordering the same cars that you know, basically designed the layout for, the iron block 427 and the sports car conversion package with the 15-inch wheels and the big sway bar and the F41 suspension, and the 140 mile an hour speedo. And so they let him know. So Don figured out who it was. It was Jack Douglas, called Jack, and Jack did tell me that they had words. So Don thought that Jack was going behind his back and going to build cars with his nameplate on them and not give him credit. And Jack thought that he got taken advantage of because he was paying somebody to buy cars that he could build on his own. So they came to a mutual agreement after having words per Jack Douglas. I did not get a chance to speak to Don Yenko about it. He died in a plane crash in 1987.
Yeah.
But Jack said, yeah, we had words, but we're businessmen. We worked it out. So I agreed that selling these cars with his advertising and the fact that he was a known road racer and had some marketability, that we could badge and stripe the cars and continue to sell them. But Jack would get what's called the holdback. Back then, much like today, you sell a car, and at the end of the year, the dealer gets an extra credit for every car they sell, financial credit. Mm-hmm. Plus, they get what's called turn and burn credits. They did back then. The more you sell of one car, the more of those cars you can order. So if you get a hot car and you sell a bunch of them, you can get more of them. So Jack solved his situation by ordering the cars directly. He did badge and stripe the cars and sell them to the public as Yenkos. He even advertised them as such. And then we even found an estate document in Don's, when they went through Don's office and, you know, in his estate sale, there was a bunch of papers that were collected where Don was writing an article, came from his office, where he said that Jack Douglas sold cars that were badged and striped as Yenkos, but that he ordered them direct and they did not come through the Canonsburg dealership. So that was in the Yenko archives. And I think Don said it was 22 cars, and Don was working off of his memory. He may not have remembered that Jack ordered 4 of each color of car. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's why the Jack Douglas Yenko cars exist. They're a very neat part of Yenko history. They are different than the Yenko Canonsburg cars. Jack ordered them a little bit differently since he could add his own options. Like I said, all his cars came with Endura bumpers. That's the rubber bumper. It's not on this car. They all came with the style trim group. But Jack also introduced additional colors to the palette because there was nothing to restrict the colors because he was ordering them direct. So what he did was, let's say, for example, he ordered 4 dark green cars, which he went back in and said, all right, I'm going to take that order of 4 cars, and I'm going to keep 2 of them dark green, and I'm going to make 2 of them white cars. And so he did change things up a little bit. He also ordered more yellow cars than the standard 4. We don't know exactly where he took those cars away from. Yeah. To add that up. I believe there's a total of the 24 or 25 cars built. I believe that we have approximately half of them found and documented.
Oh, very cool.
And so this is one of those finds. This is without a question one of those cars. I did order an NICB dealer data report, and I'm telling you that it's going to come back as this car being delivered to Jack Douglas Chevrolet of Hinsdale, Illinois. Really cool find.
That is awesome. And it's just cool that this car will hopefully be at McAcken here, because I'm releasing this on Saturday, right, as McAcken's starting. But this car was painted in 80. We have, oh, look, even the inner fenders were painted in a Mesa kind of motif. And you can see down there, let's see. Yeah, there you go. It was painted by Dan in 1980. But I will post all the other information on the car. Do you want to go through real quick?
Before you do that, Ryan,
yeah,
I'd like to add, this car has been driven and shown. I mean, this car was at the Carcraft Nationals, I believe.
Yep.
It may have been at the Street Machine Nationals. So if anybody remembers this car, please stop by McAcken and talk to us about it. The owner was very confident that he had some sort of Yenko connection, Yenko car, but he wasn't sure how to document it. And what I did not mention is that did I mention that the very identical car, the very prior body number to this car, which was built identically to the way this one is set up, exists. So pretty cool that we know exactly what the car is and where it came from. Neat piece of Americana and Chicagoland Yenko history.
All right. So that video by Stefano Bimbi was quite incredible. I just thought I'd go over the car real quick, show you all the little nooks and crannies. So this is the small spoiler that he was talking about. See how it doesn't reach all the way to the edge of the quarter panel. But that was an early Camaros had that, but this was after it, so it was definitely added on or replaced it. It's got the factory Yenko badge in the Jack Douglas location. And then going around, the car obviously had a crazy paint job done in 1980 by Dan, French-in power antenna.
And a couple joints.
Yeah, apparently so what happened was, we've heard from friends, is the car was painted red, and they hit the garage, pulling it out of the garage, and they couldn't match the paint, so they got so high over the weekend, they painted the murals on the car. Which I totally believe, because I know the Psycho Super Bee out in Illinois. What?
Rat.
Oh, yeah, there's rats in the murals.
Guarding the road.
Uh-huh. Ridiculous. Oh, and then I had to hit that thing again. But, so this was all painted over a weekend. And as Stefano was saying, the car is basically an untouched survivor inside. I mean, the interior is really, really nice. The owner, Ron, he drove this car a lot. He raced it. He went to many of the Street Machine Nationals. There's a video of this car on YouTube doing a burnout at one of the Carcraft Nationals. I haven't been able to reach the owner. In the parking lot?
Hotel parking
lot. Oh, hotel parking lot. Oh, my bad. But I'm going to see if I can get to the VIN number. There. Oh. There you go, the VIN number, and it is in the registry. I will post a picture of the registry up here in a bit. And here's the additional Yenko badging on the side. A little bit of pitting. And then the added on RS front end, or at least in the chrome bumper. But you can definitely see that they were going for, why is this thing weirding out? Good, my gimbal's weirding out. Okay, there we go. The engine we did discover with the numbers. I'll show them again. This is a L78 Chevelle engine for 69. And you can see it's a disc brake, manual steering car. And both inner fenders were painted with a Southwest theme. That's just so cool. And then the other Yenko badge on this corner. But we do have a picture of the cowl VIN number, which I'll post also. But unfortunately, this car was put away in like 93, 94 time frame, and was sitting in a trailer in Lake Zurich, Illinois all that time. And I knew Ron from a car club, and he told me, hey, Ryan, you got to come see my Yenko sometime. And I'm like, anytime, sir, you know this is what I do. And unfortunately, Ron passed away, and his wife or widow just got the car out of the storage building, or out of the trailer, got it home, and now we're going over it. Oh, I want to pop the trunk real quick. Oh, where'd the keys go? Oh, they're on the dash. I want to show the yellow paint, because there's still yellow paint in the trunk from the original. Oh, it's also got the big bumper guards. This is my friend Bob. Bob is in the club. But here you can see yellow in the paint. Yeah. And then let me just pivot my gimbal around. There we go. Oh, come on. You can see yellow in there and underneath. But it's such a clean car. A real time capsule. And I can't wait to see what comes next with it. It's going to be absolutely incredible. This is how we found the Camaro back in October. No one had seen the car really since it'd been sitting in there for about 30 years. It was stored away in this trailer in the back of a storage lot for a decade, or for 3 decades. I know the owner had checked on it, and I know they have moved stuff in and out and put stuff in the trailer, but the actual Camaro hadn't moved in, like I said, since the 90s, I've been told. Yeah, it may have been right before that moved around a bit, but it's basically been untouched in that trailer since then. And unfortunately, there was some individuals there that made it difficult to fully document the car at the time, but that all changed as time went on. The owner allowed me the opportunity to check on the car when it got to her garage here. Actually, legitimately, it's 10 minutes from my house. So I went over there very quickly with Stefano Bimbi from Nicky Performance and fully documented the car from top to bottom. And of course, I don't have the knowledge base that Stefano does. That's why he was brought in as an expert to go over the car and verify everything that needed to be verified to see what the car was. These pictures were taken by Stefano Bimbi on specific items that classify it as a big block Camaro, which is in line with what this car would be. First up is the large single fuel line that was needed to fuel the big block Camaros at the time. It's a 3/8 single line, and it is original to the car, which was really neat. Next, we had the original 4-speed bracket, which is original to the car. And then we have the original transmission cross member that is for a big block, because it's not the same style of hole that the mount goes through. It is specific only to big block Camaros. Next we had was the factory 5 leaf spring pack on the rear of the car, of course, that was used on big block Camaros. This was the location of one of the factory brackets that held the dual exhaust. You can see that behind the bracket is still some of the original yellow paint from the car. And that's the very important BE stamping on the rear end that was only used on Yenko and COPO Camaros in 1969. So that is a telltale sign of what this car is. And we're pretty sure that those are the original extra gauges that were added on at Jack Douglas Chevrolet in Hinsdale when new, because they match very close to what came on the Yenko cars in Pennsylvania. So to keep with that, they probably kept them pretty close. And here on the rear end of the car, you can see where the Yenko badges is to the right of the Chevy bow tie emblem, which wasn't done on the Yenko Pennsylvania cars, but was done on Douglas Yenkos. So that's another real surefire sign that this was one of the original Jack Douglas Yenkos. And we just got today, as of this recording, confirmation that the car was shipped new to Jack Douglas Chevrolet by the Chevy Performance Group, I believe. Hey everyone, let me tell you about this Yenko. Wow, this has been a whirlwind of a few months. I've known about the car, as I've talked about for a long time, and I saw the car for the first time the closing weekend of October, so like around the 15th. I saw the car in the trailer. I didn't hear anything for over a month now. Well, yeah, right about a month. When the owner messaged me out of the blue about what to do about the car. And that was just under a week before McCacken. At the same time, my van suspension broke. The Challenger's alternator died. It was my friend's 40th birthday. All my friends at Motor Trend got fired. It's been a heck of a freaking few days, let me tell you. And then now I'm going into the stress ball that is McCacken, which is wonderful. I love the show and I love being such an integral part of it. It's just a lot in a very short amount of time. But it was absolutely worth it. I shot this with Stefano Bimbi as of this recording the same time yesterday, which is I leave for McCacken because I moved into my hotel room for move-in tomorrow, which is Tuesday before the show. So it's really condensed and things moved very, very quickly. It reminds me very much of the Hurricane Superbird first coming to McCacken in 2022. How that happened over like 3 or 4 days, which I talk about in previous videos. But I hope you enjoyed this Camaro video. I tried to make sure that all of the details were there to verify what the car is. Because I know people with Yenkos get very specific with stuff. And I wanted to make sure that there was no questions about what was going on. So it's really cool. It's at McCacken as of right now when this video drops Saturday morning at 7 a.m. because I wanted to be ahead of the curve. But you guys let me know. See it at McCacken. Talk to me about it because I'll be delirious at the time. But I will be around. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and hopefully you saw the car at McCacken. If not, you really need to. Otherwise, I'll see you guys there and I'll see you around because a lot more coming up. I got stuff I can't even talk about. So very cool. See you all soon. Stay safe.